Hello everyone, it's Kyona. I am back with another video. This is our pantry makeover. I am so excited to show you how I transformed our pantry from a hot mess to something much more beautiful. So stay tuned. Okay, so here is the before of my pantry. Um, it was just a big cluttered mess. And I purchased baskets, I purchased jars, I purchased a label maker, Lazy Susans, everything that I could think of to try and organize the pantry. However, it was still not looking the way that I wanted it to look. And one of the major things in the pantry that I dislike are the wire shelves. I don't like wire shelves. My goal is to get rid of all of the wire shelves in the house, but I knew definitely that I wanted to remove them. I was a bit afraid, but I did, finally get the courage to get the wire cabinets or the wire shelves out. Another thing that I knew I wanted were cabinets. So I needed cabinets to kind of hide some of the things that just were not going to work on the shelves. And at the last minute of this makeover, I decided to put a wine cooler. So stick around and watch how I did it. So I did a lot of research for the design of the pantry. Our pantry is pretty small, so I knew there were certain things that I wanted, but I didn't have a lot of space. So I searched YouTube for ideas and Pinterest. There was one YouTuber who I loved her design, and so I used that as my model and I tweaked it. One of the things that I knew that I had to have were cabinets. I needed cabinets to hide some of the clutter, and so the first thing on my shopping list was to get 2 cabinets for the pantry. Lowe's and Home Depot sell unfinished cabinets, and I picked up 2 of those. I also picked up 2x2-inch boards for the floating shelves. I picked up a couple 2x4-inch boards for the base of the cabinets. I also picked up some trim, nails, wall anchors. Wall anchors were super important because you have to make sure the shelves are nailed into studs or they will fall down. I also picked up a couple other items, spackle, a stud finder, and a leveler. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but I'll let you know. Next, I made the base for the cabinets that I purchased. To make the base, I used the 2x4-inch boards. I used a miter saw, a speed square, that will be the blue triangle thing that you see there, and a measuring tape. The speed square, if you've never used one, it helps you to mark your boards with a straight line so that you can cut it straight. And so I measured the bottom of the cabinets, and I nailed them together into a square so that the cabinets can sit on top of it. And I did that for both cabinets. Those of you who've never used a saw before, I don't like saws either. But I purchased a secondhand miter saw the first time that I used it, just to make sure that I was actually going to be okay with the saw. And I really liked it. It is one of the easiest saws that I think there is to use, and it feels safe. And so after I was comfortable, I purchased a brand new saw. But here you'll see that the base of the cabinets is done. So I just put the cabinets on top of the base, and voila. So the next thing I did was I had to remove the baseboards in the pantry, and I did not want to do this. I don't know. I didn't know what was going to come from beneath the floor or in the house, in the walls of the house once I remove the baseboards. But in order to get the built-in look, the cabinets needed to sit flush with the wall. And so again, I coughed up the courage. I got a straight edge razor and I cut the caulking. And then I used this tool to separate the baseboard from the wall, and I tried to carefully remove it, so that I can push the cabinets flush against the wall and make the cabinets look like they were built with the house. Hopefully, when you remove the baseboards, if they're still new, our baseboards are fairly new, you could reuse them and just put it around the cabinets when you're done. The next step to the process was removing those awful wire shelves. And they were interesting. I had to watch a couple YouTube videos on how to remove wire shelves. They're actually not that difficult to remove. I used a straight a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and I just stuck it into the nails. Are they yeah, they're nails, not screws. So they're nailed in there, they're not screwed, and most of them had wall anchors, plastic wall anchors to hold them up. After I removed everything, I had to use the spackling to cover the holes, and I used the Drydex spackle because it allowed for me to put it on pink. It goes on pink and then it dries white. Another thing that I did in this process was I used my stud finder to find all the studs in the wall. And as you'll see here, there are lines that I drew with a pencil on the wall to let me know where the studs were, so that once I started nailing my floating shelves, I knew exactly where to nail in the wall. Okay, so here's the fun part: attaching the 2x2 inch boards for the floating shelves. Here are the tools you'll need. You'll need a drill, you'll need a leveler, you'll need nails, you'll need a stud finder, and you'll need wall anchors. There may be other things that you need along the way. I also use a driver, and I use pocket hole screw thing. I don't know. I had to use that. There are so many different ways you can build floating shelves. For this space and the look I wanted, the 2x2 inch boards were the best option for me. You definitely need to plan this out before you start this. You need to decide how many shelves you want. So for my design, I use 5 shelves. You need to decide how much space in between each shelf you'll need. And so for me, I needed one shelf to be to have more space than the others. So you'll see from the bottom shelf where the cabinet is, I've added extra space because I had items like tall bottles of olive oil or cereal. They just wouldn't fit on the other shelf. So be sure to plan that out so that you'll have the space that you need. So you'll also see on the left hand side, I had to attach each piece separately. I would have loved to build the rectangular shelves all outside and just nail them in the wall, but my pantry is not big enough to do that, so I had to do it piece by piece. Okay, so here we are. We're on to the next step. Here are all the tools and materials that we'll need for this step. I didn't realize that it would be so much, but here we are. So we need caulk. We need a caulk gun. We need clamps, liquid nails, a measuring tape, a nail gun, a sander and sandpaper, a sheet of plywood, a sheet of particle board or MDF board, trim head screws, and wood filler. So before you go to purchase your plywood, make sure you take measurements of your shelves, because what you can do is after you buy the plywood, the sheet of plywood, you can go to the cutting department in either Lowe's or Home Depot, and they will cut the plywood for you. Now they won't cut it in two directions. So for me, I had them cut the length of my shelves, and then when I got home, my husband Vince cut any extra off for me. So again, you can have them cut one direction, and when you get home, you can cut any easy parts that need to come off. So after all of my pieces were cut, I brought home the cut pieces and I placed them on the frame to make sure they fit, and they did, which was great. So I started to attach it. I made sure that I put liquid nails on all of the boards, and then I clamped the boards to the frame, and then I used the nail gun to secure all of the plywood to the frame. For the next step, I used particle board to put underneath the shelves. This is a very light material. I think it's also called MDF board, but it goes underneath the shelves. You don't need a heavy wood to go underneath the shelves. You need just something to cover the framing underneath. I didn't like this material that much. It was hard to paint. So if you can find something better than this to put underneath the shelves, that would be great. But this is what I use, and this is what it looks like after I tried to paint it. So once you apply the plywood and the particle board, the front of your cabinets or your shelves will look like this, very unfinished. So you'll need to purchase trim, which are these wood pieces that go in front of the shelves to kind of camouflage what's in front of it. It's very easy to use. In order to do this or apply it, you just put the liquid nails and you use your nail gun to attach it. So this is what the trim pieces look like in front of the shelves. It really finishes everything out, and it was so easy to do. When you're a DIYer, your measurements won't always be perfect, and neither will your cuts. That's where caulking comes in. So all of the spaces in between where the wood meets the wall or the particle board meets the wall need to be caulked. It fills in the spaces so that it makes the project look seamless. So you definitely need to caulk, and you'll need to use wood filler on any of the nail holes or any spaces in between the wood that needs to be filled in. This will help for a smoother finish as well. Lastly, when you're done, you'll have to go to work with that sander. You probably should start with a coarser grit sandpaper to knock out any lumps on the project, and then finish up with a fine grit sandpaper to prep for painting. So this is the end of part 1 of the pantry makeover. Here's a reminder of what the pantry looked like at the start of this project. Such a hot mess. No organization, clutter, and those wire shelves. One of the things I wanted to mention was that in my planning for the pantry makeover, I decided at the last minute to add a wine cooler, and it took me forever to find a wine cooler that fit into a small space. So if you decide to add a wine cooler, be sure to think about that before the build so that you can get the design exactly how you'd like it. Still, I really liked how it turned out. It's not finished yet. I still need to add the baseboards back. I also need to stain the top of the shelves and add some more decorations. I'll come back with a part 2 of the pantry so that you can see the final makeover. But this is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching.